Right then folks, I'm going to do this in one shot. Lots of people have been asking me how to do the rust effects on some of the cars I've done for Gaslands, like Elvis, obviously, and the Lil Will. So it's dead simple. I'm going to use this Devil's Run Chevy gas, which is resin, but the same effect works. First things first, prime it in black, any black you want. I use Rust-Oleum cheap black, matte black from Wilco's or B&M, something like that. Anyway, that's the first thing you need, black primer. The other two things you're going to need are Army Painter dry rust effect paint. You can use a normal orange, but it doesn't come out quite the same because obviously this mimics dry rust. And then a sepia or like a brown wash. I put all mine into bottles because it's easier. And then you're going to need the easiest item of all is some sponge. Now these are all terrible, and they all started out a lot bigger, but I've cut them all down as I go to keep them soft. Sometimes though, if they're really, really crusty, like this one's a bit crusty, it doesn't matter, especially around doors. If you're in a black car and you want to put some rust along the door line, like the door jamb, it being slightly tougher works better, I think. But that'll be in a different video, I'm sure. So I've got out some dry rust already. I'm just going to get one of my sponges. It doesn't really matter the different types of sponges. I've got some blister pack sponge. I've got some crafty sponges. I've got a baby sponge that I've cut up as well from the baby. They give different textures, and when they dry out and they're a bit crusty, they give a different texture anyway. But I'll show you how I do this. So I literally get some on my sponge, dab a bit off on my palette, and my palette's messy as well, but I don't really care, and go at it. Now, it starts off being really bright, and if you get it on too thickly, it will stay being bright. So I'll show you what I do. So I'm going to hammer everywhere on this. I'll go back over the details with black, etc. afterwards. Now, on a normal Hot Wheels casting or Matchbox casting, you can take it apart if you want. I tend to glue mine together as I'm going, so it's going to get everywhere anyway. Not really a problem. A couple of areas you might have problems though. This is a great example. Is you're not going to get down into this area here. So I've got a paintbrush, a little bit of water on it. Just going to smush it in there a bit. And I get some more on the sponge. Just hammer around it. So got some in there, but I've got some like black lines. If you notice on some of the other cars, the black lines are there around some of the details, and that's on purpose. Set that on the camera. So once you get your first coat on like this, just need to leave it to dry. It looks absolutely awful, which is standard really, to be honest. They always look awful before they start drying. So what I do is I'll pop back once this is dried. Shouldn't take too long. I'll see you guys in a bit. So that's the first coat dry. What you need to do is keep on going with another coat. So as you can see, the rust is already starting to form up. It's dried a lot darker than before. Some of the areas where it's a little bit more has gone very, very bright. We can dull that down later, or you can leave it on. So I'm just going to put another coat on quick. And one thing also about this technique is it uses a lot of this effects paint. Might be able to do a better job, not a better job, a more material efficient job. That's the word I was looking for. I already got there. A more efficient job. If you did it just over a brown, maybe. I don't know. The pot's lasted me a while. Done a fair few cars with it. It's not designed really, I suppose, for this application. Let's see, we've gone bright orange again. This will probably be the last real coat I'm going to need. Let's see. There's no real technique to it. Just hammer at it with a sponge. Sorry. Keep on moving out of focus of the camera. I'll zoom the camera back a bit. 1 second. I say zoom it back, I'm just going to move it back. On the arm it's on. There we go. So again, all bright orange. Once this layer dries, it's pretty much there. We'll give it a wash for the sepia, or the brown wash, any brown you want, be fine. Give it a wash, and then we'll just do the last finishing bits on the rust, and then I'll finish up the car itself after that. Right. And the autofocus isn't working. Come on, click in. There we go. Hey. Didn't even notice. That's what happens when you do it on a stand on an iPhone. But there you go. Right. See you guys in a bit. Okay, and we're back. So this has now had a little time to dry the second coat on. As you can see, centre on the camera, it's got a load of texture to it. That's mostly from the sponge. It's also got quite a lot of randomisation in the pattern. You've got darker orange, lighter orange, some black still showing through, etc, etc. So next thing to do on this is to stick like a sepia tone or like a brown, any brown wash would do really, over the top of it. I've tried a black wash, it don't work quite as well. With the brown wash it seems to tone down this orange a little bit more. So what you can do after you've done the wash, I'll show you another step after that, after I've done the wash. So I'm just going to do the wash on camera and show you what I mean. So I'm just going to hammer at it with the wash really. Doesn't really make much difference. Any people that paint 40k stuff are probably screeching right now because I've used far too much and slavering it on everywhere. That's the whole point. So, sorry, camera again then. Not used to looking through a camera, through a screen to do something. So, what you can see is it's not dissolving the wash. The wash isn't dissolving the dry rust effects paint. So some products, so anything that's pigment based without a pigment fixer will start to run. So I've got some Tamiya pigment like grease powders. They'll run if you put a wash over the top of them, which is cool in certain ways, but if you've just done a paint job and you're like, I could do a bit more wash, you're going to end up having to redo them again. I will show towards the end about Tamiya weathering stuff and some weathering powders I've made myself out of like chalk pastels. So the colour's sort of evened out a bit more now when the wash. It's the same as before though, with the first coat with the sponge, it'll change colour as it dries. Another thing I normally do though as well with the wash done, I've hammered it on there. I'm just going to get a bit more on a sponge. Now, does this bit work? Don't know. It's what I've done every single time I've ever done it. So turn the sponge over actually. Get a dry bit as well. Randomly take some off. The whole point of it and the whole way I try and make them look, especially if you look at this one, I try and make them look is as random as possible and as many different shades as possible of orange or brown. So this is painted in exactly the same way with exactly the same products. The rust colours and the blacks and the browns are all done exactly the same as I've done with this, or I will be doing with this. You can see there's lots of difference in shade and tone. There's also lots of difference in texture. It's not smooth by any means of your imagination. The other thing with a lot of these castings, before I weather them or wash them or paint them, I don't tend to strip the paint off of them. I've got some that I've stripped the paint off, obviously, for other customs, like normal, standard Hot Wheels customs. I've stripped the paint off and then they've become a Gaslands car. But what I tend to do is run a file over them. Ooh, blimey. Smashing the place up. Run a file over them, hammer it about a little bit around the wheel arches and stuff like that on the flat surfaces, just to give it a bit more texture. That's what I tend to do anyway. Same on this one. To a greater extent on that shoe box I did the other day. Handy enough, it's right here. You can see the difference in tone and texture on this as well. Well, it's going to have even more texture now. Got a bit of wash on the top now. But yeah, you can see I've hit it with a file. It's got loads of texture. It's not smooth. It's really, really rough. What I'm going to do now is leave this to dry. And what I'll do is I'll add in all the detail that's not rust on a miniature, the car, and I'll come back once I've done that and everything's dry. Just because it's a bit easier to show the contrast. It just looks like a big orange blob otherwise until you add some other stuff on there. Even like the little headlights or the chrome bits I'm going to put on there will change it a huge amount. Especially this one's got loads of stowage. So it won't all be one colour. It'll be different colours depending on what it is. It's got the duffel bags and stuff in there. The big old like steamer trunk. And same on the engine. I put a lot of red on my engines. A lot of the other cars I've done. On the cam covers, etc, etc. But on this one I probably won't. Might do on the butterflies on the supercharger, well, the blower. It's a bit of a strange engine though. It's a proper fantasy engine, this one. Not sure how that would work. But yeah, so I'll paint this up, the other details that aren't part of this little tutorial thing. Let this wash dry, and when we come back, then I'll show you the next step after that. Pretty much from now, you could go just as it is. It looks decent enough once this is dried. You wouldn't need to do what I'm going to do next, but I said I'd show the people on Facebook and on Instagram how I do it all the way through, so that's what I'll do. Cool, so I finished up the details on this luggage. Some yellow toe straps, well, just a bit of colour to break it up. This is going to be really, really orange, well, browny orange. Done the wheels and tyres. Front wheels are green, back's like a silver, more of a silver than a chrome. Bumpers and exhaust, and the engine, etc, etc, and the headlight grills as well. So colour wise, how this looks now. Bear in mind it's now night time, and I've got a daylight bulb on my lamp on, so that's a bit better. If I compare it to one of the others, we're not far off. A couple of things that I do now, bear in mind this is as far as you're going to need to take it to look rusty. Change this up a little bit to make it a little bit more like this one. There's a couple of different things you can do. You can use like a pigment, like a powdered pigment. So obviously Vallejo make like an iron oxide, but you need a pigment binder for that. I've got base crafts rust as well. Got one that I made myself out of ground down chalk pastels, or you can use AK Interactive do these weathering pencils. You do it with that. The thing I use the most on these builds anyway are these, which are the Tamriel Weathering Masters. I actually got them from Hobbycraft in the UK for about £7, I think they were each. And the annoying / unannoying thing is that I use this one, and this one. So I use the oil stain, the orange rust, and the normal rust to change it from being just that finished rust, which is good, which is go straight away with that. That's perfectly good rust wise. Just to make it slightly darker tones, like on this one or on this one. There's hardly any of this on there because it came out how I wanted it straight off. As you can see with this one with a slightly more orange rust, to break it up, that's where I've used the orange rust from this. The only thing with these things is they come with a brush, which is mint, but the sponge itself, as soon as you hit a hard edge, like where I put rivets on stuff, it tears it to bits. So I've got these like cheap boots makeup ones. So the thing with this is, as with all of these pigments, unless you use a pigment binder with the powder pigments, even with the pencils, because the pencils use water to move them about, is that once you put this on, keep on touching it, it's going to start coming off, which is cool because you can take it off if you wanted to. Put some water on it, you can take most of it off if you muck it up. until you put like a clear coat on it. These have all got matte clear on them. It'll come off now, which is cool / not cool. So what I tend to do with these, just go along properly random, because the thing's rusty anyway. If you look at some of the better reference for this sort of rust is actually in the Mad Max video game rather than the film itself. You can just go around, highlight little bits around the door jambs and along the bottom of the doors, around this one as well, around the front here. Just randomise the hell out of it on the mesh. And then obviously these makeup sponge things at the back side as well, get a bit more. And then I do a little bit on the top of the engine, on this grille. Also these chrome parts and the luggage, I've also used the same sepia wash on it as well, off camera, just because you don't need to see me putting a wash on for the second time. It's dull enough the first time. Right, so I've gone over with the brighter orange, just to give it some depth of colour. And then this oil stain. This oil stain's really, really good. So you can see it a little bit more on the willies. Just to make it look a bit more worn. You tore that off. That just pierced my glove. And then with the same oil stain on the exhausts. Sorry, that was off camera then. On the exhausts. It does really good on the black of the tyres to make them look. It almost greys them out a little bit. And then finally, this darker rust is more like old rust. Ooh. Oh well. What they are, the pigment stuff's really good. The case and the brush is pretty crappy, if I'm honest. And a lot of people break them out and stick them into pots. And literally as random as possible, like on the bumper. Wouldn't necessarily be chrome. Like I said before at the start, if it was all the same tones of orange, it tends to get a little bit lost. I was watching something online yesterday or this morning, and someone was saying about that. If you have something all the same colour, you lose sight of the detail. I sort of tend to agree with that. So you try and get some change in the colours. And that's really it. That's ready to go for me. If you look at it compared to the others, and that was literally 4 minutes of me going over these weathering powders. They all go together. I banged some stills on the end of this video. Apart from the fact it's in like 4 parts and jammed together, I'm literally just going to put it up as I filmed it. So there'll be no editing, apart from obviously the little bits at the end and some stills at the beginning and stills at the end. And that's it. Cheers for watching. Thank you very much.